They say that legends never die, but some refuse even to fade. For over 2,000 years, one name has lingered in human imagination, whispered by philosophers, sailors, and dreamers alike: Atlantis, a mighty island empire that, according to ancient texts, vanished beneath the sea in a single day and night of destruction. A myth, a memory, or a message. From the ocean floor to desert sands, from ancient scrolls to modern satellites, the world has searched for Atlantis. Every generation finds new clues and new obsessions. Yet despite centuries of science and speculation, the truth remains elusive. Was Atlantis ever real? Or does its legend hide something deeper, something within us? To find out, we must go back to where the story began. Not beneath the waves, but in the mind of a philosopher. It was around 360 BC. In the city of Athens, an aging philosopher named Plato began writing two dialogues, Timaeus and Critias. In them, he described a world long before his own, a powerful island beyond the Pillars of Heracles, what we now call the Strait of Gibraltar. Atlantis, he said, was a great naval power that once dominated the known world. Its kings were descendants of Poseidon, god of the sea. Its cities gleamed with gold and silver, temples shone like the heavens, and its people were wise, but proud. And then, when their ambition grew too vast, the gods punished them. In a single day and night of misfortune, Atlantis sank beneath the waves. Plato didn't write this as fantasy. He claimed it was true history, passed down from Egyptian priests to the Greek lawgiver Solon, and then to him. To his readers, it was a moral parable, a warning of how even the greatest civilizations can fall to arrogance. But to later generations, Plato's words were more than allegory. They were a map, a riddle inviting discovery. What if he wasn't inventing a story? What if he was recording a memory? Across centuries, that single question has haunted explorers and scholars alike. From Renaissance mystics to modern scientists, countless people have hunted for the lost city, believing that somewhere in our oceans or deserts, the ruins of Atlantis still lie waiting. But to understand why this idea refuses to die, we have to look at how it grew, how a few pages of Plato's writing became the most enduring mystery in human history. When Plato's dialogues first appeared, few took them as literal truth. The ancient Greeks read allegory the way we read poetry, symbolic, philosophical. Atlantis was a story about virtue, hubris, and divine justice. But even then, whispers began to spread. What if Plato had based his tale on something older, something real? By the time of Aristotle, Plato's own student, the debate had begun. Aristotle is said to have dismissed the story entirely. He who invented it also destroyed it. But not everyone agreed. In Egypt, where Plato claimed the story originated, records of lost lands and floods were common. And throughout the ancient world, myths of sunken realms, lands drowned by the sea, appear again and again. In Mesopotamia, in India, among the Celts and the Maya. It seemed every culture carried a memory of the flood. Could Plato have woven his story from fragments of those older myths, preserving a cultural memory of a real disaster that had long since passed? Over the next 2,000 years, the story of Atlantis would resurface time and again, reshaped by every era that found it. For the medieval world, it was a cautionary legend. For Renaissance explorers, it was a map to glory. For scientists of the Enlightenment, it was an early puzzle of geology and myth. But for all the retellings, one truth remains. Atlantis has always reflected what humanity most desires and most fears about itself: the power to build a perfect world and the weakness that could destroy it. For centuries after Plato's death, his tale of Atlantis drifted like a ghost through history, appearing, disappearing, and reawakening in new minds with each generation. Empires rose and fell, but the lost island never fully vanished. It became a mirror for human curiosity, always reflecting the hopes and fears of the time. The 15th and 16th centuries, an age when maps were redrawn and oceans no longer held their secrets. Sailors returned from distant voyages, speaking of new continents, strange peoples, and lands where gold glimmered under the sun. The known world was expanding, and so too was the imagination. In 1627, a philosopher named Francis Bacon wrote The New Atlantis, a story of an island of learning and enlightenment hidden across the sea. He didn't claim it was real, but the symbolism was clear. Atlantis had become a dream of human progress, a perfect society guided by reason and science. It was no longer a tragedy. It was a prophecy. But not everyone saw it as fiction. As explorers mapped the Americas, many believed they had found the remnants of Plato's island. Spanish priests pointed to the great ruins of the Maya and Aztecs as evidence of a forgotten Atlantean race. The vastness of the New World seemed to echo Plato's description, a land rich in metals, divided by channels, home to powerful kings. To some, the mystery was solved. To others, it had only deepened. By the 18th and 19th centuries, a new kind of explorer emerged, not a conqueror, but a scholar. Geologists began to uncover evidence of cataclysms, ancient floods, and shifting continents. Perhaps, they thought, Plato's story was not pure invention, but a memory of a prehistoric event, a time when the Earth itself changed shape. In 1882, an American politician and writer named Ignatius Donnelly published Atlantis, the Antediluvian World. It was a book that would reignite global obsession. Donnelly claimed that Atlantis was the cradle of all civilization, the source of every ancient culture, from Egypt to the Incas. He believed its people spread their knowledge after the island's destruction, seeding human progress across the world. His words were powerful, persuasive, and wrapped in pseudoscience. Historians dismissed him, yet his vision captured the public imagination. Atlantis was no longer just Plato's moral tale, it was a lost utopia, a prehistoric Eden. And once again, the world began to search. The 20th century, from science to cinema. As the 20th century unfolded, the legend of Atlantis evolved yet again. New discoveries of ancient ruins, sunken cities, and vanished cultures fueled speculation. In 1967, archaeologists discovered Akrotiri, a Bronze Age city buried under volcanic ash on the Greek island of Santorini. The parallels were striking. A wealthy maritime society destroyed in an instant by fire and sea. Could Santorini have been Atlantis? Some believed so. Others pointed to Crete, the center of the Minoan civilization, with its labyrinthine palaces and tales of a great bull, echoing Plato's gods and kings. For the first time, science and legend seemed to overlap. Meanwhile, Atlantis took on new forms in art, film, and pop culture, from Disney to science fiction, from underwater temples to cosmic connections. It became not just a place, but an idea, a reminder that human knowledge is never complete, that some truths still hide in the deep. Even today, the ocean covers over 70% of our planet, and more than 80% of that remains unexplored. In that vast, silent darkness, the dream of Atlantis still stirs. Somewhere out there, we imagine, might lie the proof, or perhaps the final illusion. Throughout history, every generation has looked for Atlantis. But to truly search for a lost civilization, one must ask a deeper question, not only where it was, but what it was meant to be. Over 2,000 years after Plato wrote his dialogues, scientists, mystics, and adventurers still chase the ghost of Atlantis across continents and oceans, and each believes they've found it. The Mediterranean theory, the island that blew apart, among the oldest and most persuasive theories, points toward the Aegean Sea, to the Greek island of Santorini, once known as Thera. Here, beneath layers of volcanic ash, lie the ruins of a Bronze Age civilization destroyed around 1600 BCE by one of the most powerful eruptions in human history. An entire island shattered, cities buried, seas boiled, skies turned to night. Could this be the catastrophe Plato described? Thera's people were part of the Minoan civilization, known for its advanced architecture, seafaring power, and worship of bulls, details echoing the Atlantean legend. Their capital may have fallen to the sea, and survivors could have inspired Plato's tale centuries later. But the timeline doesn't fit perfectly. The Minoans flourished 1,000 years before Plato's story was written, and while their destruction was real, no city matching Atlantis's grandeur has been found beneath Santorini's ruins. Still, many historians see this as the most plausible link, a real disaster, retold through generations until it became myth. Others take Plato's words more literally. He wrote that Atlantis lay beyond the Pillars of Heracles, the ancient name for the Strait of Gibraltar. If true, the lost city would rest somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean. In 1940, British scholar Lewis Spence argued that the island might have existed near the Azores, a remote archipelago of volcanic islands rising from the mid-Atlantic ridge. To this day, sonar scans of the ocean floor reveal strange ridges and plateaus that seem unnatural. Long geometric shapes that resemble walls, streets, even harbors, though most are likely geological formations. Others point to Bimini in the Bahamas. In the 1960s, divers found a formation of massive stone blocks under shallow water, the so-called Bimini Road. Some claimed it was proof of an ancient city sunk beneath the waves. Scientists, however, explain it as a natural beach rock formation. The Atlantic theory remains the most romantic and the least proven. Yet it's hard to ignore that Plato gave precise directions. If he meant what he wrote, the answer must lie somewhere out there, hidden in the deep. In recent years, a bold new theory has emerged that Atlantis may not be beneath the ocean at all. Instead, it could be buried under sand. Satellite images of the Sahara Desert near Mauritania reveal a massive circular formation known as the Richat structure, or Eye of the Sahara. Seen from space, it is hauntingly similar to Plato's description, a vast landscape of concentric rings, mountains to the north, and open plains beyond. Researchers note that the region was once covered by water thousands of years ago. It may have been home to a thriving culture long before recorded history. If true, the desert could be hiding a lost world, not drowned by the sea, but swallowed by time. But skeptics remain cautious. There are no ruins, no artifacts, no signs of human construction. The eye may be a geological formation, nothing more. Still, its strange perfection stirs the imagination, and some truths perhaps are hidden in plain sight. Then there are those who look even further south. In 1958, author Charles Hapgood proposed a radical idea that the Earth's crust once shifted dramatically, moving entire continents. If so, he claimed, Atlantis might have been Antarctica before it froze. His theory suggested that an ancient civilization once thrived there, destroyed when the poles shifted and ice buried the land. Later, as technology advanced, strange anomalies under the Antarctic ice fueled speculation. Massive symmetrical shapes detected by radar. Most scientists dismiss the idea as pseudoscience, Yet the notion that a prehistoric civilization could lie frozen under miles of ice still grips the human imagination. It's the ultimate image of loss, a whole world locked beneath silence and snow. After thousands of years, one truth has emerged. Atlantis is not bound to one location. It has been placed in Greece, Spain, the Caribbean, the Sahara, Antarctica, even Mars. The story endures because it's not about where Atlantis was, but what it means. Perhaps it represents the rise and fall of every civilization, the warning that power without wisdom leads to ruin. Or perhaps it's something deeper, a collective memory of a world humanity once lost. The search continues not because of what we hope to find in the sea or desert, but because of what Atlantis reflects within ourselves, our longing for truth, our fear of forgetting, and our eternal belief that something magnificent once existed and could exist again.